Right, I'm just gonna address the whole team in this live stream, and then at the end I will upload it to YouTube, and hopefully you can all watch it as a team or you can watch it as individuals. So, right, just to start off with, just some heads up, right, I've done a demo review already. So I've done two types of reviews. I've done a 3D overview review through, sorry, a 2D overview review through NoAssist, which allows me to basically look for all the rounds where utilities being thrown, etc., etc. I can look at grenades, positionings, where people are getting the kills, what's happening. I can select certain players, etc., etc., just so that you understand a little bit what NoAssist is. I'm not going to go into great detail, but basically I've watched the demo first through this. Then I've also watched the demo in-game, so that I could see, for example, if I wrote down certain utility was not being used correctly, then I could have a look in-game to see how it was being used and why it had no effect on the opponents, etc., etc. So what we're going to do is we're going to do two things during this hour. I'm going to explain through all of the different rounds, talking about where mistakes are made. Sometimes I'll mention things which weren't necessarily mistakes but definitely could be looked at to improve on a certain aspect. I won't really go into what you did well. Well, I haven't written down particularly what you did well, but I might mention that as we're going through the rounds. And then basically I've got a load of general overview points which I want to talk over first before we get into the demo review. Then I'm going to talk about utility usage and where it was good, where it was bad, and how you can improve on certain things. And then there's a couple of videos which I would recommend watching. The first two would obviously be CT utility for Inferno and T utility for Inferno. This is more smokes and this is more Molotovs, flashbangs, grenades and smokes all together. And then there's two video live streams which I've done and uploaded to YouTube for roles and zones. If you're confused by any of the vocab and stuff that I use during this hour, then what I would say is definitely go back and before you watch this demo review, go and look at these two videos here, the roles and the zones. I will include this document in the description and then you hopefully should have a better idea as to what is going on. So to get into things, we're going to go quickly talk about the general things which I found was a problem with the team. I'm going to try and explain it the best as I can with the shortest amount of time because we don't have hours to talk about these types of topics, so I'll try and get a general overview, and if you're confused you can ask me on Fiverr afterwards and I can try and explain them in better detail. And then we're going to move over to the rounds. We're going to talk about everything through the NoAssist demo, how everything played out, where you can improve, what was wrong, what can be looked at to improve in the future. And then when we get to the end of that, we're going to talk over our utility usage again, on where we can improve, etc., etc. And then we're going to go in the game, and I'm going to talk over a couple of things basically that I said that can be improved on, and I can hopefully show some examples. So I'm going to try and get a lot done in this hour. So there's going to be a lot of information, so I advise you just sit back, relax, and then just listen. So in the general stuff, let's go over this first because this is going to be the most important out of everything. We first need to issue one thing which sort of very much shows across all of your T rounds, and this is your team as in a general view needs a better use of entry communication. Now what I mean by that, so if we go on to, let's say, an overview map and we pick Inferno. So if you watch my roles video on YouTube, this will explain this in great detail, but I'll give you some general ideas. So when you're an entry fragger, it's your goal to basically take any form of either map control or site control, and you need to do this in a way that basically allows you the maximum potential of success. So when you're looking at map control, you're looking at, for example, areas on Inferno like here, you're looking at here, you might even be looking at banana control as a whole. You could be looking at long, and you can also be looking at short. And then, so you've got these main areas where you're looking at map control as an entry. And when you're looking at site control, obviously you're looking any point past sort of this area, anywhere past sort of this area, and this area is where you're looking at going from sort of map control to site control. So when I say you need better use of entry communication, what I mean is when you're an entry fragger and you're deciding, okay, I'm here in this position right here, and I want to go from this position right here into the map control. Now, what I typically see when you guys are playing is, let's say you have another guy second mid, towards second mid, maybe in the bridge here between that, or you have a guy apartments. Then instead of using your teammates all together to sort of either get good smokes that land here, for example, flashbangs which go from this position over to here to pop flash any opponents which are basically sat here, or again a Molotov which could basically go from this guy in apps to land underneath the part on short, or underneath the little boost spot on short, which could then push this opponent out. Instead of doing that, you typically decide to go into entries with no utility or without proper teammate use. So I'll give you a quick example of this in-game. So again, I'll give an example of how I would use better communication skills when I'm entering. So let's say I'm top mid. I'll give you that exact example again. I'm top mid and I'm about to go into enemy map control. So let's say an enemy has potential to be stood there, another enemy has potential to be stood there. If I go past this point right here, I'm going to take contact with this player, and if I go past this point right here, I'm going to take contact with this player. So when I'm at this point right here, it would be wise of me to hopefully use a teammate where available to either remove the player from this position or remove the player from this position. So if I have a guy in apartments, I might ask him, for example, to smoke offshore. A very basic smoke. It's not absolutely accurate, but you know, it does the job. It removes this player. Again, removing the guy off long, same exact thing. If I have a guy apps, I could ask for this smoke right here. It's not going to be 100% accurate unless you get a good lineup, but it's going to remove this player off this angle, which will allow you to then focus on this player. So when I talk about better entry communication, what I mean is when you get to a point where you are about to take map control, or you're about to enter a position where an enemy could be, it would be better for you guys as a team to say, okay, I'm in the entry position. Can you smoke my long? Can you smoke my short? Could you maybe get a molly on the balcony? If there's a guy second mid, for example, asking for a pop flash which goes towards the long area. So any player which is stood potentially here could be blind. Or even a much better flashbang, because this one isn't very good, a flashbang which lands on this corner, for example. You can ask for a teammate to, to molly into the corner, for example. As I said, it doesn't have to 100% be accurate stuff, but what it has to do is it has to assist you as an entry fragger to get past from your area of the map to their area of the map. And this is what I mean when I mention entry fragging and entry fragging communication. This is what I mean. When you get to these areas, using your teammates, communicating that forward, okay, I have a guy apps. You can even flip it the opposite way. You're the entry fragger in apps, you want to go out towards short, and you have guys mid. You could, for example, say, okay, smoke off my short, first smoke off my long and flash short for me. And what that means is the rest of your team knows, okay, my entry fragger wants to smoke long, so a long smoke will land here. You can throw them from back here, or you can even throw them from here now. You can even get someone who's here to throw it. And they want a flash short. So again, you could either go full over the top, you could just bounce a crap one off, which is going to make the opponent's turn anyway, and then you can come out with that. Or you could bounce one which basically lands up here, so just off this wall in general, and that means this short player, this apps player doesn't even have to turn away when he's entering. So that's what I mean by better entry communication. That is one thing you guys need to look at in general. Any way you're taking contact with an enemy player, you need to be potentially using your teammates better than you already are. So this, let me just quickly check the next thing. Okay, better conditioning. Now I can show you this outside of the game because this is going to be much easier on this program. So what I mean by conditioning, if you don't understand what conditioning is, then good, because this is going to be something which will hopefully teach you a lot. Again, it's another complicated topic, but when I talk over conditioning, it's super, super important for you to understand. So conditioning. Let's say you want to take banana control. Now you can do this by basically, you know, throwing mollies here, throwing grenades here, smoking here, for example, and then taking banana control. You can do this. And this will work fine. If you do this every round, if you do different stuff and you just try and take general banana control, then that is fine. However, the opponents aren't going to give up trying to fight for it back. Now what conditioning will try to achieve is you want to make the opponents not at all want to contest banana. You want to condition them away from the banana area. So when you go to take banana control, you will hopefully achieve that there's no players there in general. Now what you can do by this, let's say I have a general rule. So let's say the first 6 rounds. So out of the first 6 rounds, you want to try and condition for 3 of them. Now what that means is, when you're approaching a certain map control or a certain area or whatever it is that you want to condition the opponents in, for 3 out of the first 6 rounds you want to do the same thing every time, which will make the opponents think, okay, they're going to do this, so let's not try to fight it. So a couple ways you could condition banana to stop enemies from coming banana. You don't want them to come past this point. You want this area for yourselves as a terrorist side. So you want to condition the opponents out of this area. So what you could do, you could potentially double or triple nade here, for example. So you could have 3 guys run up early banana on the left side or even the right side if the enemies aren't nading off, and you could triple nade this area. You could Molotov this area and double nade here, for example. That means if there's any more enemies here, they're going to be in this area right here. You could, for example, smoke this area right here and push with 3 guys with a flashbang into this area. So if you do that for 3 out of the first 6 rounds, the enemies are going to be thinking, okay, they're going to do this every time, so we can either leave it and forget about it because they're basically trying to force us out of banana, or we can try and fight, and then you can play to the opponent's weaknesses as they're fighting. So what conditioning is basically you want to do the same things over and over again so that the opponents stop doing what they want to do. Let's say they always want to peek mid early round. You notice from round 1 they start peeking mid all the time. Well, if you start throwing 3 nades up mid from round 2 until round 6, then they're going to think, okay, they're triple nading mid, I don't ever want to peek mid anymore. And that is what conditioning is. So if I mention the word conditioning, it's where you do something very early in the game, multiple times, so that the opponents think, okay, we shouldn't play in those positions because we're either going to die or the opponents are doing something which makes our strategy useless. And I gave you some T-side examples there, but you can flip it on its head and you can do the same for the CT side. So I'll give one more example and then we'll move on. If you're the B players and you don't want the opponents going in banana control, so you'll typically see this. A molly will potentially come down here or potentially go down to here, which means that enemies will then either get stuck in this little cubby right here, or they'll get stuck in this little area right here, or they'll be stuck back here. And then what you could do is you could potentially either double nade or triple nade this area, or this area, from basically the very start rounds. Maybe not the pistol, but let's say round 2 if you win the first round, and you do it all the way until, let's say, round 6. If you do that every time, then when the opponents come from spawn, when they get to sort of this area right here, they have to make a decision. If we go into banana, we're going to get mollied and then naded, and we could potentially die or lose a lot of our health. Or we stay back and we wait back here and then we take banana a bit later, in which that plays to your advantage because you've conditioned the opponents to not take banana at all. You have full banana control, and if they want to retake banana in the late game, they'll have to use flashes, they'll have to use Molotovs, they'll have to use nades to make sure all the angles are clear. So that's what conditioning is. You can do it on both the CT and the T side. I recommend looking into this, but I'm going to mention this word a lot of the time during this demo review, so I definitely advise understanding what conditioning is and coming up with some ways of conditioning your opponents. More diverse utility usage is my third point. I'm going to mention utility a lot during this. Basically, if we look at some really basic stuff when we look at utility, let's take, for example, let's put you guys on the T side, and let's say banana. When you guys take banana control, you only throw Molotovs when taking banana towards car. Okay, what about this corner right here? Why don't you throw Molotovs here? Why don't you throw Molotovs here? You know, this is a very, very neglected part of utility. Flashbangs. When you throw flashbangs, you don't throw any pop flashes which land directly on the top of this wall. You only throw flashbangs which land in this area. Okay, what about flashbangs which blind this player right here? These flashes don't do that. The enemies can see these quite easily and they can easily turn away from them unless they have an AWP. So what I mean by that is more diverse utility usage. These nades, you only throw nades mid at the early rounds, you see in the first 10 to 12 seconds, and you do it very inconsistently round 1 to 5, 13, 14. There's no conditioning here, it's just simply throwing grenades because you think they might peek mid. But if you were to, for example, let's say round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5, for a 1 or 2 nades, then they'll stop peeking altogether. You've conditioned the opponent to think, okay, if I peek, I'm probably just going to die anyway. So what I mean is, more diversity, utility usage, you need to learn more stuff. 1 single smoke in the whole 15 rounds on your T side went towards long, and 3 smokes went towards short, in which all 3 of them landed on the right wall instead of going into the middle. So you need to learn better utility usage, and this is why I've included this this YouTube video right here from Steel, an ex-professional player. I recommend watching this and learning just a couple. You only have to learn 1 or 2 smokes and you'll have way better than what you have right now. So more diverse utility usage, more off default. Now what I mean by this is, when I watch your guys' demo, I'll quickly try and find a round. Let's take round 3. Your typical default is to go towards banana. Okay, you always have lots of players here, but you take banana control. When I talk about defaults, it's where you're taking map control. That's usually what a default means. A default isn't a hold, but it's more taking map control. So you guys love taking banana control. So this is where your default is, but you're only doing it with 1 player. That means you've got potentially 4 players, which could take apartments control, could take mid control, could take long control, could take short control, or go towards banana and help this guy more. However, what typically happens with you guys is banana guy's fighting either on his own or with one other person, and the rest of the team aren't doing a lot. And if I mention more off default usage or the term off default, what I mean is everyone else who's sort of not in banana control, trying to fight for banana control, should be doing more stuff. And you definitely need to look into this. You guys need more off default usage. You can't just have one area of the map as your primary focus and neglect mid, neglect short, neglect long, neglect CT, and neglect apps. You need to look at all of these areas as well as your banana control. And you might think, well, then you're trying to put too many eggs all over the place. Well, that's the whole thing. You've got to make the opponents think, okay, what are they doing? They want banana control, but they also want here, and they want there, and they want that. And that's what you want to make the opponents think, what the hell's going on. Higher utility damage across the board. You guys have very, very weak utility damage when it comes to HE grenades and incendiaries. Let's look at the T side, and we look at nade usage. A lot of these nades on B were really good, but a lot of the time they're thrown from this location here, entry grenades. So that's really the only time you're hitting grenades. This grenade here as well, this was really good, but you knew an opponent was there, so it actually did something. These nades here were pretty standard, so they also did a little bit, but typically these nades mid are just being thrown for no particular reason. There's no conditioning really thought about it, they're just being thrown. The nades, which there's 1 single nade in every single round being thrown banana, but typically players like to play inside banana, so more utility needs to be thrown here to do more damage, and your Molotovs are only landing car, which means by about round 7, the opponents are going to know they're throwing a Molotov car every single time, so I'm not going to peek there anymore. But Harold throws a Molotov car every single time. There's a point where the enemies have they already know that there's going to be a Molotov car, so they won't peek it anyway. But you're throwing it regardless. You could be throwing this Molotov, let's say here, and doing a little bit of damage. Even if it's 1 or 2 ticks, it's better than nothing. Playing the advantage, you guys are also quite weak at. When you get in a 5 versus 4, or a 5 versus 3, or a 4 versus 3, whatever it is, wherever you have the advantage, you guys like to then fight on all corners of the map. What I mean is, let's say you kill a guy apps on the T side, well then banana instantly starts pushing up to try and get a kill, mid starts fucking panicking and starts pushing into mid, and all of a sudden you've gone from a 5 versus 4 to a 4 versus 4, or potentially a 3 versus 4, 3 versus 4 in a couple of seconds, because you like to just, we got the kill, and people start going nuts and trying to look for the kill, for the next kill. Take a second, regroup potentially if you need to, or just realize you have the advantage. There's 4 entrances. There's 3 main entrances. No, there is 4. There's 4 entrances into this map. There's this area right here, this area right here, this area right here, and this area right here. That means if the opponents only have 4 people left, they can't rotate a player from B to A or A to B. because it will mean giving up one of these positions to hold, which then means there's a hole in the defense. If you guys on Inferno get one kill, take a minute to breathe. Just remember, if they have to rotate a player from B to A because you got to kill A, then potentially somewhere on A is open right now. It could be apps, it could be short, it could be long. If you get a kill on B, then they potentially have to rotate a player off towards B, then it's typically not going to be the guy who's watching these two positions right here. It's either going to be the short guy, or it's going to be the long guy, which potentially, again, means that this position could be open right here, or one of these two areas could be weak towards apps. So, when you get a kill and you get the advantage, take a second to relax. Think about where the enemies could be rotating, if they are rotating, and think about where the weaknesses could be in the defense that now you've got the kill. And that is where you want to focus your attention when you get the advantage, not trying to get more kills, because you guys panic a lot when you get a kill and you think that the round is won and it just gets lost every single time. And then finally, this comes more into utility usage again. Too often teammates are having to turn away from flashes. Now what I mean by this is you need to be throwing flashes which either land behind your entries on the T side or are blinding opponents before your entries are peeking into them. Or on the CT side, for example, let's say you've got a guy B and he's holding this angle right here, then throwing a flash which lands here, or throwing a flash which bounces off this wall and lands in the line of sight of this player is not going to be good. It's not going to help these players. I too often see you guys throw flashbangs or you guys throw utility, which makes your teammates have to turn away. You don't want to make your teammate turn away. That way you're causing a problem for your teammate. For example, the one big example I saw was you had a guy here and a guy here, and a flash was thrown which bounced right into his view and landed right here, which meant the player from CT with the AWP had to turn away for a quick second. And the enemies coincidentally peaked in exactly that second. Now what would have been better is to throw a flash which potentially lands here, or potentially lands above or behind this player, or here. That way, it's not going to blind your teammate, and if an enemy would have peeked in exactly that second, it wouldn't have blinded the AWPer, or the AWPer wouldn't have had to turn away. So, they're the general points, just so that everyone's on board. If I mention any of those things, that's what I mean. CT utility usage, this video you need to watch. T utility usage, again, watch this video. Roles, this is going to explain the better use of entry communication. I talk for it for about an hour, so it's really going to explain that. Zones, this is going to talk a lot about rotation and after plants and other stuff, so I recommend going and watching that. It's really, really good 2 videos I did for Vodafone, so definitely recommend watching that. I'm not going to explain on the utility things because I'm not sure I'm going to have enough time, but if I get enough time, I'll talk over them. So let's talk over the rounds. So round 3. 3 kills on the A site players. So we'll go to this round right now, and I can hopefully explain this as we go along. So round 3, I've got that you got 3 kills on the A side players. So let's go to the point in the round where basically you got 3 kills on the A players. So your first 2 kills was here from Dirty, got a nice double kill spray, and your third kill's here. Now in this moment, you could presume that they've probably got no one A after this point. You got 3 kills. Why would they have 1 player A? So what I would say is, naturally they're going to rotate 1 player over from B to A. So that's something you guys as a whole team have to be aware of, not just the in-game leader, but everyone. And if they are going to rotate from B to A, then instead of trying to cause a fake, why don't you just wait and cause a rotation cut? You cut the rotation off instead of faking, which means you'll probably get another kill. So what I mean by this, if these players here are now going to go take A, you need to be aware that there could be a player rotating from B, or there could be potentially 1 more player here. And Harold, because he's already in a position towards B, instead of faking now and trying to hold this player back and this player back, he could just sit here watching this angle, and if there was a guy on site, he would either have to go across or go around and cause more time, and he'll also be able to hear how many people are leaving that site. He's not going to hear this guy, but he'll definitely hear this guy. So now he can basically secure a kill from this guy right here. If there was a guy on site, Harold has a kill. It's pretty simple. So what ended up happening is you guys take a lot of time here to decide, okay, are we going A, are we going B? And Harold instantly starts sort of moving towards B and then trying to fake it. Now, this guy was about to rotate into him, and he didn't get the kill. And now that he knows he was rotating, Harold could probably assume that either one has already rotated, or there's two on B site, which means these guys would easily be able to go A right now. So, general takes from this, if you get a massive advantage like that, you need to think, okay, where are they? Could they potentially still have a player towards A? And Harold needs to think, is it worth trying to fake when it's a 5 versus 2 and the only players which weren't killed were towards the B site? Because instead he could look at zoning and rotate, cutting off the rotations, going from B to A, and get kills, more and more kills. So definitely worth looking at. Rotation cut instead of securing the kill, and remembering when you get a 3 kill advantage by killing all the players on one site, they're probably going to rotate players over, so it's better to just group up and go to the site where you got all the kills from. Round 4, when taking banana, definitely worth introducing conditioning. This is the first round I saw that basically you do nothing towards this conditioning. And as banana is being worked, more of the off default. So we mentioned off default before. Now I'll explain and show you what I mean by that with your round, rather waiting. So the main thing, conditioning banana. So let's take the banana. You guys basically both double molly car, exactly the same spot. So you could say this is conditioning because you're conditioning opponents not to instantly go peak car. That's pretty good. However, this is all you do every single round. You double molly there every single round, then you sort of wait. Now, as these guys here are taking banana, these 3 players aren't really doing anything apart from waiting. And it's not just this round, but it's every round from this point on. They basically wait and see what happens. So as you can see, if you look at this section of the map, from 20 seconds to, if we go all the way down, to basically 50 seconds, nothing is happening. The guys on banana aren't doing anything, and the guys in mid aren't doing anything. You're all holding. Now, holding is fine, but it's a very old meta. Now, if these guys were working banana for, say, they were doing their default, the default is take banana control, and in the meantime, these 3 players were trying to look for information, maybe putting a bit of pressure on apps. You don't have to take apps control, but looking for how do we put a bit of pressure on apps to make them think, do they have apps control? These players potentially putting a little bit pressure upper mid. So anyone holding brackets has to think, okay, they could take mid control right now, etc., etc. Then instead of just holding and waiting, you're gaining information. You're looking for where the rotations are. You're potentially allowing, if these guys get kills, if you're pushed up upper mid, then you can stop this player rotating right here, for example, or this player easily being a rotate, or if you get apps control, or you make them think you have apps control, and if there's a player back here, they might not be able to easily rotate towards B, because they might think, okay, a guy could come out of apartments right now. So, off default, definitely look at it, and conditioning, definitely need more of it. You either need to be putting more pressure on your conditioning towards here by, as I said, you could throw double nades here, you could throw a smoke here every single round, you could, instead of mollying just in front of car, the first 6 rounds you could molly car, and the next certain rounds you can molly here, etc., etc. Round 5, entry fragger with no second entry. Could also use a flash assist on third, let's find that. So, let's look for where the entry is. Right here, Harold. Harold's, you've got a third player right here who could potentially flash. These 2 players together could both entry at the same time. And the decision by Harold is basically charge forward, and Slobodan doesn't follow him in that moment. Now, what I would say here is, there's a couple things. Hollow could throw a pop flash, which lands right on this wall, so that these 2 players can go at the same time. Harold could communicate that he's going for it, and Slobodan could follow. Or they could both wait, and they could take the time because this molly's still up. And what actually happens is, Harold goes forward with no flash. Slobodan doesn't follow until 2 seconds after, in which the first kill's taken, and then the trade frag is failed on, and the third player can't get there. And then the third player gets there before Slobodan has gone in. So, looking at this, definitely could have been a flashbang. These 2 players could have definitely gone together. What you could do there is, Harold could, for example, say, I'm going in 3, 2, 1, entry, and then you could both move at the same time. Or you could use utility. So these two players could, for example, bounce a grenade off this wall into this corner and then entry together. So there's lots of different things you could do there. It definitely shouldn't have been one player going in, the second player not doing anything to trade frag, and then the third player comes and saves the day. This guy shouldn't have been there before both of these guys died. Hollow should have been there after these two guys died, not before. So, off default, not doing anything again. Let's have a quick look at that. Again, these two players, I know when you think about a default and you think about taking banana control, these two players don't necessarily do much, but they can be gaining information. They could be sat towards apps, potentially throwing a flashbang from here off this wall to here, or they could throw a Molotov off the door to here. This guy mid could be potentially throwing a smoke here or a smoke here to cause any form of distraction. There's lots of things that this off default can do that isn't necessarily trying to gain map control, but making the opponents think, oh shit, are they in our apartments? Are they trying to take mid? What are they doing? So definitely look at your off default. And then at the very end, entering a site at 30 seconds without using any outstanding utility. Let's quickly have a look at that. We get down to this last part right here. One Molotov, two smokes, three flashbangs. What actually happens? One single flashbang, which lands in an area which will blind nobody, and both players enter. And then finally, a Molotov is thrown towards this area right here. One Molotov and one flashbang, which have no effect on the site itself, more just areas outside of where it's important to take, and then you've taken a site. Why not throw a Molotov here or a Molotov here, and a second Molotov potentially in an area like this, or potentially at your library, which you threw again? At least then these two areas are covered, and you could focus your attention towards site. Or you could jump off the balcony and look at this area and this area. Need to look at using your utility before entering a site if possible. Round 6, Dirty getting two banana players late round, but then you commit to A. You need to be prepared more to take advantage of the advantage. Again, here we go. Harold dies at the beginning of the round. Fair play. These guys are doing more off default. This is good. This is good this round. And then you basically don't really see anything. Now the enemies push, which is fine. That's normal. That's normal. And then you take apartments control again. Really good. Get a nice kill on A. And then Dirty gets a double kill. Right? Sorry, not Dirty, but Dirty and Carl both get a double kill right here. Now your bomb's here. Now the bomb can back off. Now you can presume if you've got a double kill here, there might be a third player in banana somewhere. But it's a 2v. Hollow knows that there's a player here. There could potentially be a second one on A. That's obvious. And there could potentially be another one here. So I would say take a second to think about it. You could potentially pull the bomb player back. He could easily dive out here. Carl could protect mid. And then when you all get to lower mid, you could all go B. Or you could all regroup and go A all together at the same time. You've got smoke. You've got one smoke, one flash, three flashes, and one Molotov. You could easily do an A execute. But what happens instead? You rush, trying to take short control. Dirty gets an easy kill on long, luckily, and thank God you secure the round. It could have gone very, very bad right here. What I'm saying is, this player wasn't involved right here. These two were trying to rush it. Take a moment. Play the advantage. If this was a practice playing the advantage. You don't have to practice winning. Winning isn't always a good part of practice. So definitely looking towards taking your time, relaxing a little bit, look at the situation. Can we play that any better? And I think there you could have played much better. Either you could have all regrouped and gone B because you just got the 2 kills here. There could have only really been one player B. Or he would have had to rotate from A and you would have arrived there at the same time. Or you could have all regrouped, took your time and gone A with better uses of Molotovs, flashbangs and smokes. Round 7. Carl taking a solo mid pick when he had the ability to get utility support. So let's have a look at that. Yeah, I believe this is the one where Carl picks out from apps. So you take apps control. It is. Take apps control. Now this is something which I mentioned before. Carl must have seen Monster right here. Right? So he goes for the peak instantly. However, when he's taking towards apps and he's sort of already going towards short, these players either need to be aware or Carl needs to make that obvious, okay? Saying, you know, I'm going to go peek. I could maybe peek mid in a sec. Can someone be ready with a flashbang? You could also have this player right here potentially ready to smoke off this area, this area. In my opinion, this was a quick decision from Carl to try and get the kill on Monster because he thought he was backing right here. He saw him and he thought, okay, this is my opportunity. He peeks out and dies. So either Slobodan could have already been up mid because Carl was already in deep apps, or Slobodan could have potentially thrown a flashbang. Carl could have already pre-prepared Slobodan to throw utility earlier as he was taking apps control. There's lots and lots of things where you can improve on your entry ability right here. I know obviously you wanted the kill and you died for that, but when I watched the demo back, my take from it was you had more than 2 or 3 opportunities to use this player right here. Up to 10 seconds before, right at this point, you could already have this player pushing up, saying, okay, we could both meet in mid, etc., etc. So that's the first thing. And again, Slobodan should already be pushed up a little bit more. When you take apps, right, that typically means there's not going to be a player stood right here and right here if there's no smoke mid. So having a player here isn't always necessarily the best option. This Slobodan could be pushed up more towards mid. Apps control safe, you've got that, which means if Short's going to stand right here like an idiot, he's going to get killed from a guy peeking apps, no problem. And if there's a guy stood here, he's going to get seen from a guy peeking apps. So definitely Slobodan, you need to be pushed up a little bit more here, I would say. And you need to be looking more at your map awareness. Where is Carl? I should be more towards him. Round 11, when opponents are going aggressive banana, it can usually be good risk to pressure apartments immediately, as typically banana pushes are done with 2 or 3. So let's have a look at that. Round 11. So I didn't really see anything 8, 9, 10. Round 11, they go immediately with an aggressive banana control. So you see this smoke right here. This is typical. When you see this smoke, there's typically 2 things which are happening here. Either they're pushing with 2 people or they're pushing with 3 people. You see this all the way up to the pro level. So you can presume that there's a good chance that there are 2 or 3 people pushing banana right now. And Harold gets a kill. So what I say is, it could be good risk, it can be a very good risk to pressure apartments at exactly the moment. You see this smoke right here, Harold says, okay, they've smoked lower banana, then Slobodan could immediately start pressuring apartments at this moment. Now, you might think it's very high risk. Why would we risk that when we could potentially lose a player in banana? Let's say they're only taken with 2 players, then they shouldn't be aggressing both banana and apartments at the same time, typically. So Slobodan going into apartments, he's usually going to get a 1 versus 1, or he's going to get it on his own. So it's a good risk when the opponents are taking banana like this. Harold could say they're taking banana control and Slobodan could immediately take apps control. If he dies, fair play, he's died. But you were going to lose banana control usually anyway. They did a very poor job here. They didn't nade off this corner. They didn't molly here. So Harold got the kill really easily. But typically Harold would have died in that situation, which means Slobodan would usually have to get that up. So what I'm saying is, the opponents aggress banana, typically re-aggress apps. That's a good way to even the playing field. Round 12. 3 versus 3, you had a poor use of utility usage going onto the A site late round, and it's worth looking into a bait and switch in apartment. So let's have a look at this. So late round, when you had a 3 versus 3, you had, let's look at exactly this moment right here. Molly, grenade, and 2 flashes. And let's have a look at what was used. 1 grenade right here, and 1 flash which lands in this little area right here. So, entering the site in a 3 versus 3, you could have potentially mollied here or double naded into this cubby with the 2 nades. You could molly here, for example. You could molly onto site here, for example. You can throw a molly which hits the skybox here and lands onto the site. You could throw a flashbang which goes over the top of the roof here. You can throw a flashbang which lands here. You could throw a flashbang into pit which lands here. There's all of these different pieces of utility that you need to look at when you're entering site. But instead you typically go for 1 single flash, which doesn't really do very much, and very, very poor nade usage, which again doesn't do very much. So look into using better utility when you're entering. Now, bait and switch, what I mean is, okay, you lost 1 player. Carl is in a great position that if you take contact on a player here with, let's say, a player holding this angle, then Carl can easily peek. So what I mean is, Hollow, instead of moving from this position, could easily sit right here, watch this angle, and then Carl can watch that angle. And when Hollow takes contact, Carl can peek. It's an easy bait and switch. Hollow's going to take the contact. This guy's going to look towards him. Carl can easily get the pick. So after plants, you need to be looking at contact plays, bait and switches, really, really simple stuff you need to be having a look into. Round 13, quad nade was too late. Now, I'm going to quickly show you this from right here. So, round 13, you attempted to throw 4 nades. The earliest that one was thrown was 11 seconds. Now, something you have to realize is it takes the opponent only 10 seconds to get from CT at one of the worst spawns to this area right here. So if you're throwing grenades on round 14, was it 14? No, it was round 13. If you're throwing grenades which start at 11 seconds, you're either not going to hit the opponent, or he's going to get there before your nade gets there. So you either need to practice this before the game, or you don't. It's not worth throwing these. And as you can see, if we go into the replay, we go to round 13. Richten gets towards mid exactly at 9 seconds. Now, he had an okay spawn. He had the second best spawn, and he got there at 9, which means even if you would have thrown at 7, you still wouldn't have hit him on time. He would have easily got a kill, no problem. And at 7 seconds, you guys were all here, which means you had no chance. So you need to remember stuff like this. When you're looking at quad nade and you're looking at nading mid, the opponents are going to get there before you get there. So you either need to do it as soon as you get to ramp, you need to throw it, and the nade will land here, and it won't really do very much, but it'll at least put him off. Or you need to take less risk. Either have one guy throw a flash over here, for example. Hollow at the back could just be sat there. He could have bought a flash. Obviously, he couldn't have afforded it, but for example, one guy could have bought one flash, and he could have flashed as you guys turned this corner right here, etc., etc. So you need to be aware. When you're throwing grenades, or you want to do quad nades, triple nades, think about the timings. Are the opponents going to arrive there before you do? If so, then it might not be worth it. Or if you are going to do it anyway, then you need to do it with better circumstances. Round 14, the Hollow entry solo mid, while his teammates were on the way to apps. Might be worth waiting apps to catch up and move forward. So let's have a look at that again. So Hollow tries to enter mid while his opponents were going apps. So you could look at this as a potential high risk, high reward, or Hollow just trying to get a kill, or he thought it was clear. However, you've got these 3 players they're going apps. They're going there anyway. So Hollow may as well wait. Is it worth trying to take a risk when you've got your team on the way? Probably not. And what that basically causes is, as these players are walking in, the round just dies from this point on. Dirty gets an easy triple kill at the end, but that's not the point. The failure of the round was Hollow potentially peaked mid too early instead of waiting for his opponents to get apps. And he died. And that could have potentially lost the whole round. Now, it's not on just Hollow. These players could have been moving at a much quicker rate. They weren't really doing anything. But what I would say is, definitely if your teammates aren't ready or aren't in position to potentially assist you, just wait. It's a practice. Unless this was an official game, I wouldn't say take those types of risks. I would say in prac, it's always about trying to play the best you can play. And if you're in a position like this where your teammates are nowhere near you, there's no way, even if Hollow would have peaked mid and no one would have been there, the bomb wasn't getting to A anyway. So the best he could have done is gone here. And yeah, he could have cut off the rotates, but they could have potentially had a player in pit, for example. So wait for your plays. Round 15, just playing the advantage better. You won the round anyway, but here, 2 kills off, what is that? The first 15 seconds, 2 kills immediately. And what happens? Harold instantly dies banana. The bomb is on its own. Dirty hasn't moved up, and these 2 players, again, no one's reacted. Now, you could slow this down. Harold doesn't have to peek here. You've got 2 kills. Is banana even worth it anymore? You've got 2 kills in A. Dirty could start pushing it to apps. Slobodan could potentially slow it down, doesn't have to move from this point on, which he does. Slobodan doesn't move, Dirty starts moving up. These 2 players go towards banana to react to Harold dying, and then luckily you get a 3rd kill there. Again, you're at a massive advantage now. 4 versus 2. Yet you're all spread out. No one's coming together. You're all waiting. And now we're starting to see it closing down. However, again, third player not even moving. If Hollow's going to be banana, he may as well be here, cutting off the rotation. There could potentially be a guy B right now, so Hollow could potentially just be waiting to catch off the rotate. There obviously isn't a player B, but that would be the best thought. There could potentially be a player B. And these two players are going in, and Dirty isn't ready yet. Either Dirty could be here or Dirty could be here. And as these guys are fighting mid, Dirty could also be ready to start fighting here. They could also throw a flashbang over here for Dirty to jump out apartments. Dirty could also throw a flashbang which lands on at the balcony, if he has one, which he does. Dirty has a Mollo as well, so he could potentially Molotov here. He could potentially Molotov this area right here to push opponents into this line of fire. There's lots of things you can do, but instead, you're trying to rush things. You luckily get a kill right here. Luckily, Slobodan was watching, but there's a good chance Slobodan was about to turn right there, and you would have lost two guys. Then Hollow would have had to regroup. Dirty wouldn't have been available for any form of refrag. It could have gone very, very wrong very quickly. Now let's go over to the CT side. Round 17, slow down the retake. Let's have a look. You lose all your players A. Oh, sorry, you lose your two players A very, very quickly. And now it's a 3 versus 4. Now, these two players are going to arrive at the site way before Harold does. So what I would say is, take your time. Right here. These two players are instantly fucking balling out towards this area long, which is a danger zone. They could potentially have players here. They could potentially have players here. There's no way that they could have had players here unless they were full sprinting, but it's still an option. Now, if you would wait for Harold to, let's say, get mid before you guys start attacking past this area and this area, then you can then all advance on the site at the same time. So I think definitely slowing down the retake instead of these two guys trying to peek and stop the bomb plant, and Harold is no way near. So what that eventually causes is basically you get the two. Oh no, you lose both the kills at the end. But again, obviously you haven't got much time. The bond's down. Carl's trying to push before Harold's ready. If Carl would have pushed at that moment right now, as Harold was here, then Harold could have got 2 kills. As Carl pushed, both of these players look this way. Harold could have peeked out and got both kills. Simple. Take your time. Play together. Harold can't assist Dirty. Bad 2-man setups. Let's have a look at that. I believe this is the B site. Common theme here. These 2 players never play together, and these 3 players never play together. So what you'll see quite often, Dirty will play a position like this, and Harold will be sat on site. Now, that can't be. So again, Dirty is aggressing down here. He's doing lots and lots of stuff here. What can Harold do to assist him? He hasn't got any assist utility. He's only got a FAMAS and a Deagle. Him sitting here is watching this angle. If Dirty can die from anyone here, or potentially here, Harold can't do anything. This is a terrible 2-man setup. Look at better 2-man setups. If one of them's going to be in banana, you may as well both be in banana. Unless Harold could be here, but he needs flashbangs. Because at least if he has flashbangs and Dirty takes any form of contact, he can instantly flash and Dirty can peek out with the flashbangs. Round 21, B players again not being able to do anything. Another 1-1 setup. Let's have a look at that. Round 21. Again, Harold now is the one towards banana. And then he leaves. So at the early round, Harold again is sat right here, and Hollow is with an orb. Oh no, he's with an org with no utility. So let's say Harold gets peeked by a guy right here right now. Now Harold's dead, and Hollow can't do anything. He's just lost his teammate for no apparent reason. And if we look towards A, same thing. Carl's holding balcony, but Dirty's in apartments. Well, there can't really be any one balcony right now, so Carl may as well be right here. He may as well be watching this angle right here. So at least if Dirty takes any form of contact, he can back, and Carl could potentially get the kill. And Slobodan, yeah, he's doing alright. He's watching mid. He's making sure no one comes up behind Dirty. So Carl definitely needs to be assisting Dirty in this position. Round 22, Carl holding apartments, but Dirty inside of apps again. Again, same theme. Dirty in apps. Let's go to that. Dirty's in apps right now, and Carl's about to go graveyard. The best that you could do right here is either double it with Dirty or go into the apartments right here and potentially crossfire. At least here you can have a decent crossfire that when Carl takes contact, Dirty can take contact. There's not really much need on having one player inside of the apps and the other one watching balcony, because there's a good chance they're not going to be balcony if you've got one guy apps. And again, Harold's all the way down deep in banana. Hollow watching this angle. How are the opponents going to get to here? They're not going to be able to do it. And the only utility that Hollow has is one nade. So he can't assist Harold. These two players need to be playing together, and these two players need to be playing together. Round 24, Dirty has a habit of going aggressive and getting a kill, and then staying around to die. So Dirty's always in apartments. That's quite obvious now. Now, you get a kill right here, and then waiting. You've lost a kill, then you've gained a kill. And now you're at the advantage because you've gained a second kill. So, what you could do right here is these two players could potentially back and go towards site. They could do a crossfire, let's say one pit, let's say right here, and one on apartments right here, one on site. That way they're at a decent crossfire, they're both watching towards short, and they could easily win this round that way. However, Dirty overstays his welcome, just sits in apps, not really doing anything, and dies. And now, Slobodan is on his own, gets one kill, and then instantly dies from two guys peeking out apps. Now, you guys won the round, but it could have been played better. You have the advantage. Play the advantage better. Dirty, you got the kill. Get out of the apartments. Get towards the site. Slobodan, back off. It's a 4 versus 3. 4 players can hold all the angles you need. These guys have aggressive banana, so if they come up behind CT, fine. Therefore, you don't need to hold long. You can just hold long from this angle. From this angle and from short from this angle. Or you can have both guys on site, one guy on site, one pit. Lots of different setups that you can do for the late round if you have banana control. 25. The enemies are conditioning apps. Dirty's played apps every time and they know it. They've seen him aggressive apps every time. They've heard him. And last round he was aggressive. So when we go to round 25, Dirty goes aggressive again. Now, they were ready for that. Batman's got a P90. You only take a P90 if you're playing close range. You're playing very close range contact and you want to full sprint. So I think Dirty he's just too repetitive. And again, Dirty's now here. Hollow has come from B to A, and now he's playing Graveyard. If Dirty's aggressive apps, why do you need a guy Graveyard? The minimum that should be happening is Hollow can either go short and help Slobodan. He could either go long and help Slobodan, so you could have 2 long. You could have Hollow in apps with Dirty, or Hollow could be here for in case Dirty needs to, oh shit, I'm at a bad situation, or Dirty could back up and Hollow could protect him. So this play right here, not useful. The bomb down, Slobodan needs to instantly back up his teammate. Let's have a look at that. You get the bomb down right here. Carl sees the bomb is down. And there's not really much movement that's happening. Dirty's looking for things happening second mid. The bomb is down. It's been seen. Secure the bomb. I would say always secure the bomb. Either completely protect the bomb and forget about everything else, or forget about the bomb entirely and don't go, just go back and sit on your sites. What basically happens is here is because Dirty isn't going to secure the bomb and Carl's watching the bomb from a distance because no one else is watching it. Carl dies from apps. Dirty is confused as to what the hell is going on now. And Slobodan isn't moving at all because he's scared about this potential player right here. Now the bomb's down. The second player just killed Carl, so Carl knows it. Which means this player right here, he either has to keep fighting or he has to back off in that situation and grab the bomb. So Slobodan could be thinking, right, if there's no one else here, that has to be the final player. He's probably going back to get the bomb. And Dirty should be able to hear this. Now, Dirty hears about here. He hears steps coming from here. And Slobodan hasn't moved. If Dirty's hearing the steps, he needs to be calling, I hear the steps. And Slobodan at that moment needs to be moving. But nothing happens. The bomb's down a second time. Dirty gets the kill again. And Slobodan doesn't move. For 3 seconds after the bomb is down, Slobodan hasn't moved at all. Now, this is a failure in communication and a failure in awareness. Slobodan needs to be moving when the bomb goes down a second time. It's better to play a 2 versus 2 with both players together, getting these 2 players together right here, for example, or this guy rotating towards A and trying to help this player, than playing alone. And it's especially bad when one player doesn't even rotate at all. B-site. Team flash, this is what I mentioned at the very beginning here. And now let's get to that point. Dirty's holding the angle. Now he hasn't got an orb. I thought he had an orb. He's just holding with an M4. And Harold is in a place where he can't flash very well that wouldn't blind Dirty. Now, Harold could flash here. Harold could flash into this corner right here. Harold could flash over the roof, which none of this would blind Dirty or make him have to turn. But what happens instead is the moment Dirty gets contact, Harold throws a flashbang and Dirty has to peek away from it because it would have blinded him if he was watching. Now this flashbang has to be better. It could throw many different flashbangs, and that's basically something you guys have to look at. And finally, aggressive apps, Carl sat graveyard again. Reoccurring topic. Slobodan now is in apps and not Dirty. And yet Carl is still sat in graveyard. You don't need, as I said, if this guy is watching this place right here and he's watching Apartments Control, a player cannot be here. Carl does not need to be apps. Either Carl go around towards long, Carl go towards short, Carl play here, or Carl play inside apps. There's 4 other positions you can be playing. Definitely don't need to be sat in graveyard. I've got 5 minutes left, so let's talk over the basic utility usage. And you guys can figure this out yourself. I haven't got time to go in-game, but we can have a look at it here. On Banana, you're using no HE conditioning. As I said, let's have a look at the grenades. Let's look at HEs. Team A. 1 HE grenade. 1 single HE grenade for the whole of the T side on a Banana. There's no double nades. Now, in fact, I can show you this in-game. Let's have a look at some quick double nades. Let's say, for example, you take Banana Control. Now, you can go for some high risk right here. You could potentially come in this corner right here. You could potentially throw 1 nade like this, and you could have a second player, for example, which throws another nade from this corner right here. These setups, you can easily find these online. Oh, that's a bad nade. Anyway, the second nade, both nades basically land right here, kill this player instantly. 56 and 57 damage from both nades, so that's 110 at least. You get the kill. Or you could potentially both double nade here. You can double nade here. If the enemy throw a smoke here, both of the 2 Banana players could both come up, and 1 stand here and throw it, and the second one stand a little bit in front and throw it at the same time. And anyone who sat around this area waiting behind the smoke is about to either take loads of damage or have to back up and take at least 50. So there's not very many double nades. If we have a look all around, there's basically only in this round right here did we see a double nade that landed in 1 spot. Here was 2 different rounds, 2 different rounds. There's no double nades. There's no double nades at all. Here, 2 different rounds. There's nothing. We need to be looking at better double nades for Banana and B. And across the map. Molotovs that only land in a car. Let's have a look at that again. Only car. And Harold and Carl. Okay, so it's basically Harold the whole time. If you throw a Molotov every round at car, you're going past conditioning where it's just like, they know there's going to be a Molotov there. You don't have to throw it every round. Throw it for the first 3 or 4, then change the way you're doing it. What's the point in throwing one every round? They're going to know. They're either going to peek it anyway, because what's the point? Or, it's just going to be a wasted piece of utility. Bad pop flashes, again, we look at flashes. Let's remove these flashes right here. None of them are pop flashes. A pop flash would be, let's say, from this location to the top of wall, or from this location here to the top of wall, or from this location here, which lands out here to blind anyone inside Banana. There's no real pop flashes. You need better pop flash usage. Only smoke thrown is from CT spawn. So, again, right here, all of the CTs, the only smokes that you're using for B is CT spawn. What about here? What about here? What about deep, let's say here? And you only throw them from this location or here. You can throw this smoke from here, from here, from here, from, I believe, here, here. You can even throw it from back here. You can throw it from this location right here. All of these smokes are in the same location. You need to get more diverse with your ability to throw utility. You can also throw this smoke right here. You could throw smokes that land across this area, a smoke which lands here, for example, a smoke which lands here. You can throw all of these different smokes, but you only use 1 single smoke. And if we look at towards A, it's the exact same thing. Let's go towards smokes. 1 single smoke thrown long, and the rest of them thrown very badly towards short. Let's look. We need better smoke utility usage. Apartments. Molotovs only going into stairway. Let's have a look at that again. Again, only either balcony room or bedroom or towards stairway. Well, what about this area right here? What about here right here? What about here? you can throw, for example, let's go second mid. You can throw off this doorway right here. I believe. Oh, that is a bad smoke. No, I'm not gonna get this, am I? There you go. So you could potentially throw a Molotov which lands off here. You can also do the same thing with flashbangs. So you can throw a flashbang which also does the exact same thing. So you can, if you spend a couple of minutes in a server, you'll find it. But you can throw a flashbang which also lands right here. There's lots of stuff that you can do. You're just not doing very much. You need to be looking at better utility usage. 1 HE was thrown the whole rounds. Let's go to HEs. Where are we looking here? 1 HE, 2 HE, sorry, and they only landed basically here. It's not doing anything. It's not doing any damage. You need to look at better utility usage. And 0 pop flashes. They go on flashbangs. Nothing landed apartments. Not a single flashbang was using apps. Mid. Better utility usage for mid. Better conditioning utility usage. As I said, none of these are landing really early enough. Slobodan threw probably the best nade on the 14th round, going at 10 seconds and landing just in front of mid. That is the latest I would say you want to be throwing a grenade, 10 seconds. So, better conditioning, utility usage definitely needs to be looked at. You need to learn better lineups for smokes, as I said. If we look at smokes, you have these 3 smokes which are thrown, which are just winging it. You can throw all of these smokes from this location right here. You can throw long smokes, short smokes, smokes to here, smokes to here, smokes to here, smokes to here. You can throw smokes everywhere from this area. You just need to find them. You need better Molotovs for brackets and better nades for brackets. So as I said, if we highlight this area right here, we've got really 1 single nade which landed in brackets, and if we look at Molotovs, we've got nothing. No Molotovs landed inside of brackets for the whole 15 rounds. So to summarize everything, what I would say is go watch the video on roles, because this is going to explain communication skills and how to play your roles better. Go watch the video on zoning. This is going to easily explain how to rotate better as a CT side. It's going to touch on some really simple topics that will hopefully allow you to decide, okay, am I going to fake right here or am I going to sort of lurk? Go and have a look at the CT utility from Steel, and go and also have a look at the T-side smokes from Steel. It's going to help a lot. You need to look at your general stuff, better communication, better conditioning, more diverse utility usage, more off-default usage, higher utility damage, play the advantage better, and looking at better flashbangs for your teammates. And then just on these all general points, there's lots and lots and lots to learn. So that's basically all I've got today. If you need anything else or you have any questions, then just drop me a message on Fiverr. But I hope you've learned something from this. Apologies, it was quite rushed. 60 minutes is a very short amount of time to do a full demo review, but that's what I aim to do. And I hope you've taken something from this. So thanks for your time, and yeah, I hope this is useful. Have a good day, guys.